This podcast is hosted on podhome.fm, the most modern podcast hosting platform. Podhome offers unlimited episodes and podcasts, and unlimited use of Podhome AI, which generates transcripts, clips, chapters, title suggestions, show notes, and much more. And all of that for just $15.99 a month or $185 per year. That's a steal. So go to podhome.fm and start your 30-day trial now. And enjoy the show with Joe.
Transmitting live from the Asylum Studios, deep in the bowels of Southwest Texas. It's the Joe Rooz Show. The show where we talk about anything and everything. Where nothing is sacred, nothing is watered down, and nothing is PC.
Alrighty. Hey folks, this is Joe Rooz, and it is great to be with you once again, transmitting live as always from the Asylum, and of course, doing the very best we can to bring you the best quality talk radio we could muster without all the bluster. Welcome to the Joe Rooz Show. All right, folks. So tonight, we're stepping into probably one of the most unusual conversations that we've had on the show in a long time. What happens when an aerospace reliability engineer starts analyzing scripture, prophecy, astronomy, and historical timelines like a data system? Well, tonight we're going to be talking about predictive structures, hidden historical patterns, science, faith, and whether history itself may be operating on deeper principles than most people ever really stop and consider. But of course, as always, before we get into that, we're going to take care of some of the usual housekeeping stuff that we normally do. So folks, if you would, please don't forget to head over to our website, joerooz.com. That's joerooz.com. And when you get over there, make sure you head over to the contact section. The contact section is up there in the little right corner of the screen there, a little pancake up there. Open up that contact form and send us over a message. Let us know whatever's on your heart, whatever's on your mind, any questions, comments, cares, concerns that you might have. Maybe you have a complaint. Honestly, at this point, you really should not have any complaints whatsoever, but you might. You can send them on over to us right there as well. Maybe you have a suggestion for a guest or a particular topic you'd like us to discuss on the show. Let us know what you think. We would really love to hear from you guys. Now, if you're anything like me, you don't like to use web forms, mostly because of that stupid little CAPTCHA thing, match the crosswalks, the buses, and all that mess. It's just a headache. If you don't like to use that, just email me directly at info@joerooz.com. That's info@joerooz.com. Also, please don't forget, folks, that this is a live show, weeknights, 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. Also, our Sunday Bible study show every Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. Central Time, live as well. Check them out on rumble.com/Joe Rooz. Or if you have to go to YouTube, go to YouTube. I don't know why you're on YouTube still, but go to YouTube at youtube.com/@Joe Rooz there as well. And of course, streaming audio live across the modern podcast 2.0 apps, as well as on our website. So check it out, joerooz.com for that. And your modern podcast apps for those like Podhome, Podcast Guru, Fountain.fm, TrueFans, not OnlyFans, TrueFans.fm. Check them out. Great platforms. You're going to love them. All right. Also, please, incredibly important, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the show with your friends, your family, and your followers. Because when you do that, you boost the algorithm and you help us get found and get heard and get seen. And that's really important to us. We want to get discovered here. So, because we have great conversations, not because of me, I'm worthless, but we have great conversations, we have great guests, and we need to get seen for that. All right. So make sure you like, subscribe, and share the show with your friends, your family, and your followers. All right. Now, tonight's show, speaking of algorithms, tonight's show is being brought to you by Podmatch. Podmatch, Tinder for podcasters. I say that all the time. People always get a little chuckle out of it, but it's the truth. Algorithm. The host puts together a profile. The guest puts together a profile. The algorithm puts the profile together, and you get to match or pass. And it's a great system. It really works well. And, when you really think about it, most podcast guests and hosts spend hours researching connections, coordinating interviews, and working on administrative tasks, while really only spending about 10% of their time on what really matters, and that's recording or broadcasting impactful podcast episodes. What Podmatch does is it enables podcast guests and hosts to reclaim their time through automations and streamlined processes so they can focus on creating content that really serves their listeners. And it's a great platform. You need to check them out. And you can do that by heading over to podmatch.com/member/Joe. It's up there on the screen. It's also in the show notes. Podmatch.com/member/Joe. You can sign up on the website right there. You can sign up to Podmatch through the profile on that site right there. Check out the show page. Gives you an idea of what it's all about. And you never know, you might end up being a guest here with us on the show as well. So check them out. Podmatch.com/member/Joe. Podmatch.com/member/Joe. All right. Now, tonight's guest is John Zachary. He's an author, aerospace reliability engineer, researcher whose work sits at the intersection of science, prophecy, astronomy, historical timelines, and systems analysis. Instead of approaching theology like a preacher would, he takes a different approach. He approaches it like an engineer, looking for patterns, structures, timelines, measurable relationships hidden within history itself. His framework, which he calls data-driven theology, asks it's a fascinating question. It's the question that kind of drew me to the profile in the first place, is what if history behaves less like random chaos and more like a structured system? John, welcome to the show, my friend.
Well, thank you, Joe. Great to be on your show. Love it. Look forward to this whole hour, and God bless you and everything you do.
Oh, thanks, sir. I appreciate that. I really do. I need all the blessings I can get, my friend. I do.
Okay.
All right. So, John, you started out in engineering and data analysis, not theology. So what originally pushed you to studying prophecy in ancient history?
Well, actually, it goes back to when I was a kid. So when I was raised in a Christian home and the church doors were open, we were always there, born again, all that. By the age of 14, I felt called to be a pastor, although I'm not really a pastoral type person. I'm more into my head. And so I went to college and had something happen to me. Actually, it was in Killeen, Texas, since we're in Texas. And I was preaching on the second coming of Christ. I was only 20 years old. And the ladies got up, sang a special song, and they got one line into that song, and I heard rustling above my head. And I'm thinking to myself, what's going on up there? And then I heard the word anoint. Now, if you were there, you wouldn't have heard that. Only I heard it. And then suddenly a ball of power, like 8 to 10 inches in diameter, came down, and it's tangible. You can feel it. And immediately my right hand went like that to the top of my head. I mean, it's very tangible. And this ball, 8 to 10 inches, comes down about 3 inches per second, drops into my chest and spreads throughout my body.
Wow.
So that caught my attention. And then I ended up, I got up, I preached the sermon, had a great response. And I ended up studying that sermon for 14 years. And I had basically worked everything out. Well, that event was 73 in December. 1986, I had everything figured out. But it's now developed to a high level. And it was kind of like based on curiosity. If you scientifically date this time-based prophecy, what will we learn? Because it's foretelling of specific events that will happen on a precise date, centuries into the future. Nobody can do that. It's not possible. And so,
that's right.
You know, I could ask you or everybody listening, can you tell me, like today's May the 30th, 600 years from now, the year's 2626. What's going to happen on that day? Do you know? and there is no answer. But
right.
Think of it this way. If you can measure that question and find an answer, but it's totally impossible, this is how you can scientifically verify the existence of God. Because to foretell the future requires a being who transcends space-time. Time is meaningless. Like I'm talking to you right now in this year, 2026. To be above space-times means the being that gave this prophecy is also speaking to Daniel right now in 538 BC. He is above space-time. He can foretell the future precisely And so when you use the scientific dating, that's what you learn and perceive. And it kind of like eye-opening. There's more going on. And basically, you heard a lot of people say the evidence of God intervening in human events is zero. In the inverse, you read this book, you find out that's not true. It's not even valid. God is intervening in human events more than 3,500 years based on the research that I have in the book.
So at what point did it stop becoming... I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, there's a little bit of a delay. I'm sorry about that. So at what point did it stop being, that interesting thing that you were researching and become something that you're willing to spend years of your life pursuing?
Well, by 1986, when I figured this out, it's like eye-opening. And it's not normal. We're talking about supernatural realm. You can now see that it's real. He's controlling events. And the more I got into it. Now, in the earlier days, the research was not perfect like it is now. What I'm saying is that like in 1986, I knew of 2 of these control periods. They're very consistent. And after the year 2000, we found a 3rd one in the earliest books of the Bible at the time of Moses and Joshua. So now we're getting more evidence. When I first published a book on this in 91, it was somewhat very controversial because I looked like a date setter, but I wasn't setting a date.
Yeah.
It's just this information. And I'm not a date setter. I'm just, I'll say that. We can discuss that later. I'll tell you why nobody knows the day and the hour, but people get intrigued and they'll often ask me, well, what does that mean? Can't you know when the second coming of Christ will be? And the answer is no, it's not even possible. And there's a logical scientific answer to that. But anyway, yeah, I got into it. And then it took me 30 years to scientifically date Nehemiah chapter 2. Because like in Nehemiah chapter 2, well, Daniel's prophecy, first of all, says 2 events are foretold you can scientifically date. One is a decree to rebuild Jerusalem. From that date, you count forward an exact time to the coming of Christ. And then it foretells of the destruction of Herod's temple. Herod's temple is easy to get the scientific date of. And actually, the first people who did it were Irish theologians living in 1798 when Napoleon was messing around with the world. So it's very easy to find it. But the date for the decree to rebuild Jerusalem took me 30 years. I thought about it, and what you needed was lots of data. So in the year 2001, they published a book, Babylonian Cuneiform Astronomical Text, 400 pages of data from the ancient world. So everybody's probably familiar with like Nebuchadnezzar. There's a lot of solar eclipses, lunar eclipses, not so much the solar, listed for that reign. And you can scientifically date even when Solomon's temple burned down because of that. So once you learn this stuff, so now I know 5 or maybe 6 of these repeating cycles, and there's no variation. They're controlled. So that's really, so 86. And here's the thing. I wasn't going to tell anybody about this. This is like bizarre. And so what happened was I was in my home church. I grew up in Colorado in the first Sunday evening of 1987. And I was on vacation. I was going to drive back to Oklahoma the next day. The pastor asked me to stand up and testify, and I got him, said, it's kind of like, nice to be here. And by the way, I've been thinking about writing a book. Would you pray for guidance? And I sat down, and then I said to myself, you stupid idiot, what'd you say that for?
Why would you think that, though?
Well, because it was, so unique what I'm writing. And so the pastor,
but obviously it's something that
prays.
But obviously it's something that's But it's
Go
something
ahead.
that needs to be. It's obviously something that the Lord put on your heart, and it's something that
Oh, yeah.
that it's been on your mind. So of course, the one thing I've learned over my Christian walk is, when God puts something on your heart to do it, don't say no.
Yeah. Well, I needed to be pushed off the cliff, I guess you could say.
Okay,
And
fair
so
enough.
when he's praying for me, and he starts praying for me, guidance, and a 3-inch wide strip of fire comes across my chest. And he prayed for 1 minute, and this stayed there, and I'm pleading the blood of Jesus. And
Was that
as soon
visible?
as he stopped, it went away. Huh?
That was visible to other people?
No, you could just
Okay.
feel it. It's
Okay.
feeling.
Okay.
It's like, the ball that came to you. You wouldn't see it. You wouldn't hear anything, but it's very tangible.
Okay. I got you.
So I decided
I had a similar
better
experience.
write the book. Oh, go ahead.
I had a similar. The delay is a little annoying. I have to remember there is one. So I know what you mean, because when I got saved and I became a Christian,
Yeah.
it was interesting because things took place that I couldn't explain to people, and
Yeah.
only things that I perceived. For example, what led me to seek out the person who led me to Christ, the pastor who led me to Christ, was I heard him on a radio show, and he had a Bible study radio show up in New York, and he was preaching a message on hell and who's going there. And I was sitting in my car driving to work, and it seemed like at the end of every sentence, I heard a voice in my head say, "I'm talking to you, Joe." So I know what you mean.
Time, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I'm sorry, go ahead, continue.
Well, anyway, I've told you about 2 of my subjective spiritual experiences, but what's written in the book is totally objective, because we end up using NASA scientific data to analyze, just to scientifically date events, and it's highly credible. And maybe you're thinking, well, who would believe that? But here's the thing. So, like for the destruction of Herod's temple and the Babylonian cuneiform text book from the Seleucid calendar, which began about 312 BC, right after Alexander the Great. There's
Right.
a lot of lunar eclipses listed in there, and solar, and they were getting better at it. So you take that data, and the Herod's temple was burned down in Seleucid year 381. So you do linear regression analysis of this, and it hits AD 70 precisely at a confidence level of 10 to the power of 66. Okay, like normally for engineering or pretty much everything, everybody's using a 95% confidence level. That means there's a 5% chance you're being misled by the data. But 10 to the power of 66, the chance of being misled is 1 chance in 1,000 billion. You got to say 1 billion 7 times.
Wow.
In other words, it's a fact. You can't get around it. It's very solid. Well, the same thing, you can calculate the confidence level for the decree to rebuild Jerusalem, 10 to the power of 52. There it's like 1 chance in 100 million, and you say 1 billion 5 times. So it's a fact again. And the thing is, if you changed either of these days that of confidence and such high confidence by 1 date, you wouldn't find what I found. It's that critical.
Wow.
But what it says is that human events are being intervened, and people are being controlled to do specific events, and they don't even know that's going on. And so it's like an eye-opening thing that God is at work, and here's the evidence that he is intervening in human events to reveal what is true of the spiritual realm. That's really the key to understanding that. And you find these. Okay, I use the word or database theology, or you call it data-driven theology, because the 70 weeks prophecy is about a Messiah, a character who will come and die as a sacrificial offering. If you study verse 24, Daniel 9, verse 24, there's like 6 phrases in there. One of them is about sacrificing. It's the same word used to sacrifice animals in the temples of the Old Testament. And so it's foretelling that Messiah will die and create a new covenant. He's cut off. That's what that means. But what happens is the destruction of Herod's temple is the end of the Old Testament sacrificial system. The New Testament sacrificial system is Jesus' sacrifice and resurrection. And so what you find, this controlled time sequence is precisely, it's never different, exactly 14,000 days. So on the 14,000th day, when you study this time-based matrix, temple of Herod is burned down because it's replaced. Now it's data-driven, and that is supported by what's written in Hebrews chapter 10, that those animal sacrifices done in those temples never did anything for anybody.
That's right.
So it's a controlled event. Now, the first time you find the 14,000 day sequence actually is around the Ark of the Covenant at the time of Moses. So if you read Numbers chapter 10, verse 11, you'll find a specific date is mentioned. It's the 20th day of the second month of the second year. Now, why would that even be in there? Because it's just a date. But actually, it's critical because it's the first day that the Ark of the Covenant moves. So let's say you didn't believe the Bible. If the Bible was wrong by even one day right there, you wouldn't find the 14,000 days in that
That's
era.
correct. Yeah. The Bible's very specific. Okay. It really is. It's something I mentioned to you before the show. I've said this many times in teaching and talking to folks about the Bible. The Bible is not just some amalgamation of stories that have come down through. It follows a precise timeline. God is a mathematician. God understands science. The Bible is one of the greatest science, or the greatest science textbook you will ever come across. The Bible is the greatest political science textbook you will ever come across. The Bible has the answers to every question in life. Do I profess to know where they all are? No, I don't. I haven't found them yet, but that Bible is very specific. And just as an example of how specific it is, God wrote a book called Numbers. In the book of Numbers, it is extremely...
Numbers chapter 10, verse 11.
Correct. So he wrote a book called Numbers, and those numbers mean things. Those are very specific. There's no other reason why God would have recorded all that stuff. Some people will say, well, it's just, they wrote all this stuff. It was just it was a catalog. It wasn't really meant to be part of Scripture. No, it was. It's in the canon of Scripture. God, you could tell that it was part of the canon of Scripture. It meets all the qualifiers to be included in your Bible. But God is very meticulous. God is a record keeper. He's an accountant. He is a mathematician. He keeps track of things. Go to the book of Revelation. It tells you that. In the Revelation chapter 20, the great white throne judgment. And what? The books are opened. Every single person, every single thing, it's all cataloged, written. Of course it would be specific. Of course those numbers mean things. I'm sorry, I'm preaching.
That's fine. So anyway, when the 14,000 days at the time of Moses is the movement of the Ark of the Covenant. The first day is recorded in Numbers 10, 11. If it was different by one day, you wouldn't get it. And the 14,000th day is the day the Ark of the Covenant crosses the Jordan River into the Promised Land. Now, entering the Promised Land is like going to heaven. And this date that it happens on is also relevant because it's the 10th day of the first month. It's Nisan 10. That's the day you select a sacrificial lamb that you were going to kill as a sacrificial offering in the temple. Okay, what it says, or implies anyway, is that to get into heaven, you got to be covered by blood, a blood sacrifice.
Right.
So even, why was it done on that date? I mean, if that was off by one day, again, you wouldn't get 14,000. That's just repeating, controlled precisely. That says that. Now, there are three temples in the Old Testament. You got the Temple of Solomon, Herod's temple, and Ezekiel's temple. All of them have the same 14,000 day sequence. And so if you read the destruction of Herod's temple as recorded by the eyewitness Josephus, he writes, it was destroyed on exactly the same date, Hebrew calendar, that Solomon's temple was destroyed, meaning it's a controlled event again. And that day is the 10th day of the 5th month. So Herod's temple burns down in Jeremiah 52, about verses 12 to 14 in there. You're going to find it was the 10th day of the 5th month. Now, if you go to Ezekiel chapter 40, verse 1, you'll see that the vision of Ezekiel began on the 10th day of the 1st month. That means its 14,000th day is the same as the 2 dates that Solomon's and Herod's temple burned down. So it's like precise. It's like it's presented in this way. A pattern is there, just waiting to be found, and it reveals, what's going on. Now, there's another one, because Jesus also foretold in the Olivet Discourse that Herod's temple would be destroyed. And so you have to look into the details, like the Gospel of Luke has the Olivet Discourse, and Matthew and Mark. But Luke's Gospel is very different than Matthew and Mark. Right. And in each of these chapters, the author pins a question. Well, Luke only asks, the way it's penned in 21:7, Luke 21, verse 7, he asks, what will be the sign singular that the temple pretty much is going to be burned down? He didn't ask when you're going to come back.
Right.
In contrast, Matthew actually did write, when is the end of the world? So, okay, both of them asked for one sign. And in Luke's gospel, he says, when you see this sign, it's only going to happen one time. It means the second coming is about to happen. Okay, well, that verse, you see the one sign is in verses 20 through 24. Right. And so Jesus foretells, when you see Jerusalem surrounded, then get out, which is what happened. The Romans surrounded, then they left. Everybody got out. Don't go back. And then they came back and destroyed it. And then Jesus said this, the Jewish people will be scattered all over the globe. Someday they will return, which is modern day Israel. They're going to retake Jerusalem. 6-day war, they did take it. And you add 14,000, you get to the Feast of Trumpets in the year 2005. And so that's a symbolic feast that the second coming, it's the day you blow trumpets and shout. Okay, now here's the problem that, say, Luke's gospel actually has 2 of these 14,000 day periods hidden in the 21st chapter when you do the analysis with NASA scientific data and what's happened in the modern era. Well, we keep saying, well, if the Israelis had taken Jerusalem a day earlier or a day later, you wouldn't get 14,000. In other words, it's controlled. These are human events being controlled by a divine being to reveal spiritual truth. Now, I can talk about why nobody knows the day and the hour now.
Yeah, let's get into that. Let's do that. Because I agree with you. You really can't predict the exact specific day or hour because God controls time. And that's just one aspect of it. But God controls time. So God even says that he can extend the days or he can shorten the days. And
it even talks about, I'm going to delay my coming.
Yeah, correct. Absolutely.
We don't know
correct.
if he is or not. We have no concept.
Exactly. Now we can look at, we can take things from the Bible like you do, and we can look at scripture and we can say, okay, well, because there are things called types. There's typology. Yes. Things happen and that foreshadow things to come. Like, for example, Joseph is a type of Christ in over 150 different ways. There are certain patterns that follow. And so we can look through the sacrificial system. We can look through the Levitical law and we can see where all these feasts are. And we can make an idea, okay, well, the second coming is probably going to occur sometime around the Feast of Trumpets, all right? When specifically, what years, I don't know, but that's the time. That's the time of the seasons, because God gave us times and seasons and the constellations and everything up there to map these things out. You know, God doesn't want just an automaton. He wants you to think. That's why he wrote you a book.
True. Yeah. He's got another book up there.
That's right.
Anyway, so Luke's gospel is fulfilled, and people laugh. Well, why didn't Jesus come again on the Feast of Trumpets in 2005? Because if you look at Gospel of Matthew, we'll use that one. Mark and Matthew are similar. The one sign in those Gospels is the abomination of desolation. It's not in the Gospel of Luke. Okay, so like Matthew 24, verse 15 is that. That requires a temple. In other words, he's asking it is, when will the end of the world happen? It requires a temple to be built in Jerusalem. So it can't happen today. It couldn't happen in 2005. There was nothing set up right. And the issue is this. If you read further into Matthew after verse 15, after that sign, you'll see Jesus starts, and it's only there. If you think I'm not coming back and you start to beat your slaves and live a sinful life, I'm going to come and you're going to be sad, because that's my paraphrase version, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway,
didn't exactly line up with the King's English, but that's all right.
Nobody knows. And so here's the answer. The time from the fulfillment in Luke's gospel with the 6-day warn and the Feast of Trumpets, the time from those events to when the abomination of desolation will occur is unknown. You can't get it. It's an unknown day. Mm-hmm. So we're just sitting around watching everything. So the interesting thing, again, this 14,000 day sequence is exact every time. Now, if I did the analysis, and let's say I got a time of 10,295, and then I had one of 11,212, and then I had 13,945, on and on, lots of variation, this would be meaningless. But precisely 14,000 days every time is dead zero, right on the money. And so some people may wonder, well, how do I know Daniel was even written back in 538 BC? How would I know it's that prophetic? Because a lot of liberals think, well, it was written in 160s BC decade as fiction. That's it. And so the radiocarbon dating of the oldest known Dead Sea Scroll of Daniel.
I knew what you meant, though. It's all good.
230 BC to 160 BC, but it's foretelling of the destruction of Herod's temple in AD 70. That's when it occurred. So more than 2 centuries after that oldest known copy. The AI analysis of the paleography also puts the writing from 220 to 180 BC. Now, the scholars who claim it was written in 160s are saying, no, that can't be true because we said so. Okay, well, here's the issue. The scientific dating at a high confidence level, if you change one date, and I've said this before, by even one day, you wouldn't get 14,000 because it's controlled. What that supports is Daniel was written in 538 BC. Now we have carbon-14 dating that supports it's older than what these guys proclaim. They're actually using pseudoscience. They're not really, it's their opinion. That's what they're doing. They claim to know that it was written then. They don't know anything. The data, the scientific data, the fact that the material is older than that, and the paleography is pointing to an older date than what they want, it says they don't know what they're talking about.
Matt, you just blew my brain. You really did. I knew we were going to have a great. I knew we were going to have a great conversation. I knew it. Just reading the profile and the information I researched on you. This is absolutely fantastic. But you've also reinforced a lot of the things that I believe as well, particularly about date setting and particularly about how precise and meticulous God has been in revealing His word to the prophets, to the men and women who wrote the Bible. It's amazing when you look at how you have 66 books of your Bible written over a period of 1,500 years by all of these different personalities. And yet it has one singular theme through the whole thing, and it's all interconnected meticulously, numerically. Numbers in your Bible mean things. Numerology is extreme. I know you're not talking numerology specifically, but in some ways there's an aspect of it there. It is incredibly important. Incredibly important.
Well,
Numbers
one
mean
thing,
things.
since you mentioned numerology, biblical numerology, here we find hidden in the 70 weeks time-based prophecy foretelling future events centuries in advance to the very day. I lost my train of
Biblical numerology.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so we find 14,000 hidden there, and it's based on the number 7 times 70, and it's got 14,000. Who would have known that would be hidden there? So I mean, you can divide 7 into 14,000, you get the number 2,000, which is like, the first 2,000, then you got the second and the third. So we're in that era. But you can also divide it by 70, you get the number 200. And the 200 is, the number 70 is like controlled, divine, really high priority, organized. But the number 200 is about judgment as well. So it's like divine judgment and things of that nature. So the numerology of the number 14,000 is kind of fascinating as well. But anyway, go ahead.
I was going to say the number 200 is scripturally also, and it does have to do with judgment, is also the number of insufficiency. And what it teaches us is that the 200 men of Issachar, their knowledge was insufficient in movement of the Ark of the Covenant. They must have skipped Sunday school at that point. I don't know, maybe they hadn't been in Sunday school in a while to learn that you're not supposed to touch it. But insufficiency, and of course insufficiency has to do with judgment, because you and I are insufficient in and of ourselves to avoid the judgment of God, the final ultimate judgment of God, and the only way that we can be sufficient is through His Son Jesus Christ.
There you go. That goes along with crossing the Jordan River on the 10th day of the first month, which is the day you select the lamb. The 69th week of Daniel ends on that same date, the 10th day of Nisan.
That's right. And
actually, a lot of my book was written based on reading The Coming Prince by Sir Robert Anderson. Are you familiar with that book?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, you are? Okay.
I have a dog-eared copy of it in my library in the other room.
Okay. Well, that's like the foundation where I came from. And he had a few errors in there, but pretty much we're like right on.
You look at it too. At the time these books were written, like Clarence Larkin's books. I believe in what's called, and I get in trouble when I talk about this. So I believe in something. It's progressive revelation. God reveals things to people in time. So we have more light today than they did when Clarence Larkin wrote his book, and when The Coming Prince was written, and even when Hislop wrote his great book, The Two Babylons. We have more information now because of progressive revelation. God opens up and reveals more to you as time progresses. So, but I get in trouble for that because we're not supposed to have that. So,
no, I'm going to talk about that now.
Go ahead, please do. Go right ahead.
I agree with the progressive revelation, because to get the 14,000 days, you have to use the book of Revelation. Chapter 11, verses 2 and 3. It gives you a constant. I call it a biblical constant because it's like a math thing. 360 days per year. Now you got the scientific dates for the decree to rebuild Jerusalem. You use that number 360 times the numbers given there. That gets you to April 6. AD 32 is the Palm Sunday. And if you didn't have the 360, you will never find the 14,000. Same thing true of the Old Testament at the time of Moses and Joshua. You have to use that same number, 360, to get the 14,000 days. So it's consistent. You use this number, 360, you always get 14,000. Talking about control. Now, So the book of Revelation, if we didn't have that, we would never find this. If we didn't have the New Testament, you would never find it hidden in the books of the Old Testament. Yeah. It was progressive. And as it comes out, like, okay, when the coming of Christ, he appears, Revelation will go through the roof. Everybody knows. You see him with your eyes. So it's very important that you understand progressive revelation, because things are improving. And now, like the Israelis, if they had taken Jerusalem on a different day, we wouldn't find the 14,000. Now, here's another thing about the pattern study is because Daniel's prophecy uses the number 7 and it's foretelling the future, that means every event will have to happen on the same day of the week. That turns out to be Sunday. So it's kind of like the 70 weeks prophecy is foretelling of the New Testament, because Jesus rises from the dead on Sunday, the first day of the week. So the calculated date for the decree to rebuild Jerusalem is also a Sunday. And how I found that was from Elephantine papyri. Are you familiar with those?
I've heard of it. Yeah, I'm not fully versed on it, but I've heard.
These are Egyptian scribes would document. There's a legal documents. If you got married, you sold property or whatever they did, they would write. And many of these double dated. They would put the Egyptian date and a Persian date or a Hebrew calendar date. Okay. So now you can correlate the positions of the sun, the moon, and the earth precisely. Now, the Egyptian calendar is very stable. Our calendar actually came from the Egyptians. The Egyptian calendar was 12 months of 30 days, 360, like in agreement with Revelation 11. But they added 5. So it's 365 days a year, and it was used from at least 747 BC way into the future. And they may even still be using it. I'm not sure, in some ways. But the thing is, it's very accurate. But the Hebrew and the Persian calendars are not stable. So if you give me an Egyptian date, I'll know. I can figure out the day of the week and everything when it actually happened. But if you give me a Persian Hebrew, I can't, because it's lunar solar. There's a lot of variation.
Right.
So to get the exact date for the decree, we used Elephantine papyrus number 13. And it was written on Sunday, November 18, 446 BC. And the Babylonian cuneiform book, 400 pages, has the data, so you can figure out how much variation is in the calendar, and you use that variation. So you start from Sunday, November 18, 446 BC, and put all the variation. The furthest you get is Sunday, March 16, 445 BC. Okay. And then in Daniel chapter 9, chapters 8 and 9, you have to read them both. But in Daniel 9, he gives you a known date. He says it's a Saturday, and it's the 24th day of the 7th month, pardon me. And that turns out to be calculated to October 4, 445 BC. You back up all the possible Persian or Hebrew calendar dates, and you get maximum back perfectly to Sunday, the same date that agrees. It's the only one that stands out. Set A, set B gives you Sunday, March 16. So Herod's temple, it's burned down on a Sunday. It was implied by the way Josephus wrote, but Rabbi Akiva was born in AD 50. He was 20 years old in AD 70. So he knew it burned down on a Sunday. One of his students wrote it down, actually. The temples of Solomon and Herod both burned down on a Sunday. So this number 7 foretells everything. So it's Sunday in 445 BC, it's Palm Sunday, and the destruction of the temple is on a Sunday. So it's like interesting control again. And it's because of the number 7. It's like perfect. That's the way, when I say the scientific way of proving the existence of God is have this problem. Nobody can knows the answer. It's impossible, which is tell me what will happen 600 years from today. Nobody can do it. But the answer is, and you have to be able to measure it, is the scientific dating of this ancient prophecy that shows human events. He did foretell of them precisely. Now, to give you an example of why this is so important, I would ask you, who would know that Jesus was born of a virgin from our era? Nobody would know. No. The only person I would know would be Mary. So, what this does, well, she would know. Nobody else knew.
I would hope so.
Yeah. Well, she know. What I'm saying is that how do we know it's really true? Because now you can use NASA scientific data. You can calculate it. You can find the answer, and it's precise.
That's fascinating. That really is fascinating.
The NASA scientists who wrote about the data. The reason I use the NASA scientific data is because the Babylonians would observe, say, a lunar eclipse. And what they would do, they would say, well, it happened in the year of this king and this month on this day. And then they would say, it was a full eclipse, partial. They would tell you it started after the sun set, about X hours later, things like that at midnight. It was in the middle of the night. It went down when the sun rose or whatever, things like that. So, but to get the precise data, you use NASA scientific data. It gives you the correct date. And the NASA scientists who did all this research said, even though it was millennia ago, you're within 1 hour of that event. So it's very accurate for doing this analysis.
And I just want to go back to something you said about the calendar too. I mean, that's also part of the reason why you can't put a date on the return of Christ, because people say, well, the Bible prophecy is 2 days. A day with the Lord is 1,000 years. 1,000 years is a day. So you're talking 2,000 years of church history, and then the Lord's going to return. Well, it's 2026, and He hasn't returned yet. So my answer is, so how do you know? Well, I really can't tell you that our calendars are accurate. I can't tell you when God determined the church age started. I can't tell you those things. I don't know. But
one thing about a lot of teaching, prophecy teachers, I think a lot of things, this is going to happen, blah, blah, blah. They'll say stuff like that. You got to have blind eyes. You got to cover your eyes to believe what they're saying, because they don't know. They're saying that. And you hear that a lot. So a lot of the things that are being written need to be questioned. And
I agree.
With my approach, I don't try to foretell anything in the future. Appendix B, I do a little bit, but I warn you.
That's good. Well, I do the same thing. I get criticized a lot because when I teach Bible, if there's something that I don't understand completely, and I'm coming into that particular portion of Scripture, like when I was teaching through the book of Revelation, right? There was a particular point where, look, I don't know for sure. All I know is what the book says, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And I would say that repeatedly. I don't know. If I don't know something, I am not going to gaslight you and tell you something that make something up just to make myself sound like, oh, he knows so much. I don't. If I don't know, I don't know. And it's amazing when you're honest about it, how much blowback you get from it. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, this information, when you read it, you can use it. There's a lot more to it. The next book I'm going to write is about what does it take to be able to foretell the future precisely, centuries ahead to the very day. And like chapter 16 in the book is about Islam. Now, Islam has time-based predictions. However, none of them came true. They're 100% failure rate.
Yeah, I know.
You're able to divide. Go ahead.
I said I've read the Quran, and I've actually done Bible studies. Yeah, I've done Bible studies where I've compared scripture from a real Bible to the Quran, and to show you that how different and how just nonsensical and it just completely, I can't even think of the right word for it. It just doesn't make sense. I actually got a headache from reading the Quran.
Yeah.
That's how jumbled
Well, you
and
probably would.
how much of a mess it is. You know, there's
the thing.
no prophecy there whatsoever.
Yeah. The two belief systems are diametrically opposed.
Correct.
Things Christians believe. The death of Jesus on the cross is the same concept in the Quran, but the Quran says it never happened. Diametrical opposite. You're comparing apples to apples because you're talking about the same event, Jesus dying on the cross. Why aren't they the same? And both Daniel spoke, the 70 weeks, Daniel speaks to an angel named Gabriel. The Quran comes from an angel named Gabriel. If they're the same, they should agree.
That's
but
correct.
There's total disagreement. The other thing is this, and I keep asking, how do you know that Allah even exists? And it's called absolute monotheism. So do you know if Muhammad actually spoke to Allah? What's your answer?
Of course not.
Yep, he never did, because it's absolute. Allah is above human race. He won't talk to anybody. So how does Muhammad know that he even existed? The answer is he does not know. The difference here is that because Allah is absolutely separate from the creation, nobody can talk to him. So they have a go-between. An angel named Gabriel speaks to Allah, delivers the Quran, those words to Muhammad, that becomes the Quran. But how do you know that angel actually talked to Allah? Here's the question then.
Interesting.
If there are time-based prophecies in Islam, then, and that Allah actually transcends space-time, the universe, he should be able to foretell the future precisely, just like Daniel's 70 weeks does.
Correct.
The problem is all those prophecies failed. And so that's the evidence that Allah does not even exist, like it or not.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So you can use the data for helping Muslims wake up to the reality that the Quran isn't all that it's cracked up to be.
Did you just make a pun?
And we use this. I probably did. I don't know.
The Quran isn't all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah.
That was great.
Anyway, so we use this in videos. I have videos, the like subsets of what the research is. And we use these in African nations. And we have untold numbers of converts. Lots of those converts come out of Islam. And it's very credible. So you can use it for that. You can use it for atheism. Chapter 15 is about atheist worldview. What's wrong with it? And so
I don't care what anybody says. Atheism is a religion. You have to have a lot of faith.
To believe. Yeah, you do. So the big thing, like, atheists believe everything happened by pure chance. Everything's random. And that's why they promote the multiverse.
Mm-hmm.
So there's multitudes of these universes. And we just happen to live in the one where evolution allowed us to evolve. Now, here's the question. Have you ever seen even one other universe?
Nope.
Is there any science to verify it?
Nope.
The answer is no. So the only universe we know about is the one we live in. And there are no other universes. That's the fact. There is no evidence to even prove it. Regardless of that known, and atheists even admit it, they still write books about it trying to prove it.
Of course. Because you have to have a ton of faith to be an atheist. I'm not trying to steal the title of a book that, everybody's the famous book, but you do.
Let me give you a concept of how much faith it takes. Okay, so, and based on what's the probability of these 14,000 day sequences from the time or the era of Moses and Joshua, which, by the way, I was asked a question, will everybody get the same answer when they do these calculations? The answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get on your cell phone and you'll get the same answer as me, everybody on the whole planet will. Okay, so what's the probability of these repeating control periods that are consistent and keep repeating from the era of Moses all the way into the 21st century with precision? And if you change one day, you won't get it. What's the probability of that happening
0.
by chance? Yeah, it is 0, but I calculated it and I came up with this. It's a 1 chance in 10 to the power of 168 nonillion. Do you know what a nonillion is?
I'm lost on that one.
You put a 1. 1 nonillion is a 1 with 30 zeros after it.
Good grief.
Okay, that's 168 nonillion. It's actually worse. And so actually, that's conservative. It's really 10 to the power of infinity because it's not going to happen. And so
That's
with
crazy.
the atheism, that's the probability of atheism being correct. 1 chance in 10 to the power 168 nonillion. It's not true. Basically, it's just a bunch of baloney.
Exactly. Now you've had pushback on this, obviously, from skeptics, but how about
actually, I wrote the book for skeptics and believers because it's just data, it's science, and it validates the Bible is true.
But have you had like church people push back against you on this, or any problems with pastoral leadership or anything like that?
I got in a debate with AI, one of these things that said I was wrong. And so I debated it like 7, 8 times, and it agreed that it was wrong and I was right.
You beat it into submission.
Well, I used science to do it, and it agreed with me because they can't deny it. And that's what we're using. So it would say, well, you have to use a consensus so you're not upsetting people. That's basically the argument. I said, baloney, we want to know the actual, here's the data. And if everybody uses a calculator, whatever, they're going to get the same answer. It doesn't matter. Maybe if you don't like math, maybe you don't want to do that. But you don't have to know math to read the book, by the way. The book is written very well. You can go on Amazon and read the reviews. They're all 5-star because this research is completely unique and it validates people's faith. There's 38 5-star reviews, none below that. Amazon has deleted 25 of those 5 stars. Should be 60 some. And one guy wrote this: I thought you had to lose your mind to have faith. Zachary shows the inverse. They deleted that one. I said, that's a great review.
That's interesting. That they would delete that.
They did. I wrote a letter to them. They never responded. And they're not going to respond. There were a lot of great ones. And so if you go on there and read these 5-star reviews, this is like, wake up. This is the reality. And actually, I bought this thing on UAPs. You know what those are?
Yeah. Fascinated by it.
Okay, so like UFOs, you're fascinated. Okay, I want to write about that because this stuff goes along with it. Because people are saying, well, I bought this documentary, and pretty much it's like against faith. And they're saying, well, these are beings and we have to deal with them. There's all this evidence. It was pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, these repeating 14,000 day sequences are showing that faith is valid. Faith in Christ is valid. It shows also that the Old Testament, those sacrificial services that were set up were only symbolism for the reality of the coming Messiah and what he would do. So like the destruction of Herod's temple on the final 14,000th day is basically saying Christ arose from the dead and he destroyed the temple on that date. So, I talk about people being controlled, the 2 people being controlled to burn that temple. Number one, the Romans had to be in the right place at the right time.
Exactly.
They had to make all these decisions to get right on the temple on that precise date, the 14,000th. The day before, they didn't fight. Well, why not? That was day 13,999. So, and that day they went, and Herod's temple, Titus didn't want to burn it down. He was against it.
Mm-hmm.
So everything was against it happening on that day. So they started the day fighting. And then Titus sent his cavalry in, broke it up. They stopped fighting. They're going to retire and do it the next day. And they didn't want to burn it down. Then some zealots or something attacked the Romans. They went back and beat them off. And 2 Roman soldiers, one of them picked up a brand, the other one lifting him up. He threw it into the window and it burned down on the 14,000th day. That's how those 2 people were puppets.
That's right.
Doing the will of God. Like it or not, that's what happened.
Yeah, exactly. And this is fascinating. I love this stuff. This is fascinating, and I want to spend more time talking to you, John, but we got to wrap this up. So before we do that, who's somebody that you respect right now, and what are they doing that inspires you?
Somebody I respect?
Yes, sir.
That's a hard question. I don't know if I can even answer it. Well, I respect my dad, that's for sure. He raised us well and took care of us, and he was a very honorable man.
Oh, that's great.
That's
my
fantastic.
answer. That's a great answer. There really is no right or wrong answer to it. It's your heart, And
yeah.
I prefer because I ask every guest the same question. I prefer it when it's something that really is from the heart, like your dad, a mom, somebody close to you like that, because that to me that means more than hearing about somebody, that's unreachable, untouchable, that you'll never ever have an opportunity to ever meet in your life, and those people are the ones who really impact you. I'm the same way. I look at my dad, and my dad's not with us anymore, but I look at my dad and I see how every decision that he made wasn't just a random decision. It was calculated. And my dad was probably the only person in my life that I can look back and say genuinely wanted to see me do better than he ever did. And he worked hard to do that. And that's something I'll always carry with me. And unfortunately, it took me, I feel, too long to realize that before I could show the appreciation for it. Not having him here made me realize that more now than I ever did in the past. Yeah. So, but that's why I love those answers. So that means a lot. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. All right, John. So where can folks go to find out more about you and about your work, sir?
Well, we have a website. It's authorjohnzachary.com. I need to fix it up a little more. And hopefully have an audio book soon. You can buy the book off of Amazon, The Science Behind the Story of Jesus by John Zachary. If you want to read the reviews, go ahead. Everybody loves the book. In fact, about a third of the people in the reviews are saying how science validates the resurrection of Jesus.
It does.
Because it's a controlled event. That's why. And it's not, like it's repeating consistently. It isn't, there's no variation. That's the evidence of a divine being controlling human events for 3,500 years plus. So Amazon.com, The Science Behind the Story of Jesus, and you'll learn a lot. Your faith will go through the roof when you understand this material, and you can,
I think you're right,
show it to people who are non-believers, and it wakes them up. We have like an average over 250,000 converts. There's probably a lot more than that, and that's because of other people using these materials.
That's fantastic.
That's what's happening, and we're talking about Muslims, pagans, witches, things I've never heard of before. And people say, well, these people are blah, blah. I never heard of it. But
praise the Lord for it.
We're
man.
actually setting up affiliate marketing in Tanzania, and we have the book in Swahili. And there's 70 million people speak that language. 30% of them are Muslims.
Wow.
So we're preparing to do that. If that's successful, it will get bigger.
Fantastic. That's great, man.
That's the plan.
That's fantastic. I love it. It's great. Well, John, thank you so much for being with us today. I really do appreciate it. And I'm going to put you backstage. And if you just hang out for like 5 minutes while I wrap up the show, I'll touch base with you back there. Okay?
Okay, great. Thank you for having me on. God bless
it's a pleasure.
You. Bye-bye.
You too. God bless. All right, John Zachary. What a great conversation, man. I'm telling you, we get them. We get them. So check out the book. Fantastic stuff. All right, folks. Well, I guess whether you agree with every conclusion that John reaches or not, the conversations that we have like this are really, really important. They matter because you ask the hard questions. Hard questions matter. Thinking deeply matters. Refusing to blindly accept simple answers from either science or religion matters. Refusing to accept them matters. One of the biggest problems that we have in modern society is that people are increasingly pushed toward extremes. Blind belief on one side, blind dismissal on the other. But history, faith, science, human experience are often more complicated than just that. Tonight's conversation with John reminds us that curiosity, analysis, skepticism, and belief don't always have to be enemies. They don't always have to be contradictory one to the other. Sometimes the most important thing we can do is just very simply remain willing to examine the deeper questions. And that's my final thought on our conversation here tonight. So special thanks, of course, to our executive producers, Wayne Rankin, Rosanna Rankin, Carolina Jimenez, Marissa Lee, Angela Watuski, and John Seeley. Just want to say thank you to these folks for all of that they do to help us put these shows together. Their support, their contributions of their time, their talent, their treasure are invaluable to what we do here. So I really do appreciate them, each and every one of them. Now, if you would like to find out more about how you can help support the show, just head over to our website, joerooz.com/support. That's joerooz.com/support. And you'll find out all the different ways that you can help us out. We have one-time donations. We have recurring donations in any amount. If you want to sign up to be one of our producers of the show, you can do that very simply. Associate producer level is $17.76 a month. Our producer level is $18.36 a month. Our executive producer level is $25 a month. And all the producers get the shout-out on every show. They get included in all of our show notes. And our paperwork has been submitted to IMDb. So if you are on board as one of our producers, whether an associate producer or executive producer, you are now going to be listed on IMDb with proper show credits. So that's a professional credential. So once we get all that stuff approved, everything's been submitted, it's being reviewed, that you can add to your resume. I think that's great. Fantastic, actually. All right, so check it out. Check out the show, joerooz.com/support. And again, if you can help us out, we would greatly, greatly appreciate that. All right, folks, really do appreciate you guys being here tonight. Thanks again to our guest, John Zachary, for being here with us tonight and for bringing a fantastic conversation. Folks, don't forget to head over to the website, joerooz.com, joerooz.com. Leave us a note. Let us know what you think. Really would appreciate that as well. All right, folks, listen, really important. Make Texas independent again. Go podcasting. Keep a steady stride. More important, keep talking. Good night, and God bless you. Have a great one.